So guys, I just saw Batwoman, finished the episode. What do I think of it? So right off the bat, like literally no pun intended there, Batwoman isn't a bad show from at least what I can tell after seeing the pilot, but I wouldn't exactly call it good at the moment either. Just being very blunt and honest here when I'm saying that, with just no hate spewing involved. I'm not saying it's bad period, but when I say it's not great, I just mean that based off first impressions of watching this pilot. I think another way to say it is that I wasn't like impressed by this pilot episode. Like I wasn't like, holy crap, impressed. I was just kind of left feeling like, okay, you know, that was alright. It was cool in some areas and, you know, but it really wasn't in others. So how does that leave me feeling? It leaves me feeling okay. Not completely sold, but kind of like, let's give this show another chance. You know, the fact that I feel this way after the first episode means I'm going to carry on watching it, because I think this is like another bottom line thing, is because the show after watching the pilot episode has potential. And just gathering by the fact that it's a pilot as well, we can't really forget that. Most often than not, I feel like this is what quite a few pilots of shows leave people feeling like this, like nothing too amazing or like nothing too dreadful, but enough to kind of keep you coming back, at least for the second episode, to maybe give your like final opinion if you want to carry on with the rest of the season. Batwoman, as you probably already know, whether you kind of are familiar with her character in the comics or whether you saw any Elseworlds crossover, follows Kane, who after hearing that her once romantic spark in the military, Sophie Moore, has been taken by Alice and the Wonderland gang, so Kane returns home to Gotham so she can assist in getting her back after having recently traveled all around the world training with combat and survivalist specialists so that she can join her father's security company, the Crows, which, you know, was set up in the first place as the police couldn't really keep ordering Gotham City after the Batman left. So I guess already with Kane coming home, you can kind of apply that she has this, you know, badassery element to her, having done all of this survivalist training and stuff, and that she would be like this capable vigilante if thrown in that position. Now, very early on in the episode, we already had flashbacks to Kate's tragedy of the past, of where she was seemingly the only survivor of the fatal car crash involving a runaway school bus stolen by none other than the notorious Joker. And we even get a little subtle look at the Batman where he saved a bus full of children all those years ago, but the grapple hook cables he attached to the car were not really enough to stop it from falling off the bridge. I believe like he fired a couple and he thought in his mind like, yep, sure, this is gonna hold, but unfortunately it didn't. And this is something we actually learn later on in the episode, that Bruce deeply blamed himself and racked his brain about this for every single day as to what went wrong in his calculations for when trying to grapple hook that car and secure it. But back in present day, guys, Gotham is thinking that the Bat isn't coming back as it's been 3 long years without his protection. The mayor and others have come to the decision to turn off the Bat signal for once and for all, even though there are some who still hold faith that the Batman will return, holding up signs like Batman is Gotham, don't give up on him. And there's other bits in the episode where it's like Bruce Wayne has been missing almost 3 years as well. It's just like, still, the comic book logic as to how nobody can really figure that one out. It just always entertains me. But this is where we get introduced to Alice and her Wonderland gang, who kidnap Sophie Moore and become the center of attention of this gathering of Gotham citizens. And I have to admit, guys, that Rachel Skarsten's Alice was probably the strongest thing about this episode, and that's a good thing. Like, it's definitely not a bad thing. And what I mean by this is that her crazy Alice always looks like it was one of the more intriguing elements from the very controversial marketing and promo for this series. I was always like, you know, thinking, oh, but Alice, you know, Alice looks pretty good. And I felt like this was true of the pilot episode. Her crazy Alice didn't come across cheesy at all. She actually felt like a decent villain who I'm looking forward to seeing more of, especially when considering that reveal right at the end. So in my books, the performance of Alice was probably the sharpest, and this isn't to discredit any of the efforts from anyone else in the show. I mean, Ruby Rose felt okay for the most part, and she can act, and I'm not saying that she can't. I'm not one of those people like, oh, Ruby Rose, you know, whatever. But I do understand where people are coming from, where they kind of say that they get this bland vibe from her and kind of lack of range. It just doesn't always feel natural in every single scene that she is in at times. And I know some people are going to say like, oh, she's deliberately playing this monotony attitude, and, you know, of course you could say that. But there were definitely moments, whether when it was talking to Alice after Kane was knocked out and, you know, she was captured, or whether she was saying to her father a line such as, Bruce Wayne was the one person who was there for me after Mum and Beth died, where she was just trying to look angry or emotional, but I just couldn't really take it too seriously, just as in it wasn't, you know, very convincing. But one thing that I really appreciate about Ruby Rose playing Kane is that she has a very good Batwoman demeanor and voice. I mean, it just feels right. And I've liked this ever since all the way back to her scenes in the Elseworld crossover. I think the thing that sums up for me is that she plays a good Batwoman, but she just needs to sell me a bit more on the Kane scenes. Now, as for everyone else like Megan Tandy, Sophie Moore, or whether it's Nicole Kang as Mary Hamilton, Kane's stepsister, or Luke Fox, they all felt complimentary to the show, and I think I quite like Luke Fox the most. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing more of him, as I assume he'll be highlighted the most, as he will be involved with Kane's nightly activities, if you will. Now, I'm also interested to see the dynamic play out a bit more between Kane and her father Jacob, just because it kind of feels like a very early Quentin Lance from Arrow with an Oliver Queen hiding the hood identity from him. I mean, as we know, Jacob Kane set up the Crows, and throughout the episode, he pretty much disregards anything to do with Batman, probably because he feels like he could do a much better job, but now he has no idea that his daughter, who he is very overprotective of to the point where he didn't want her to see any action, he wouldn't let her become a Crow, so he sent her away to do all of that training, will one day realize, I'm assuming, that, you know, she is Batwoman. So it's going to be interesting to imagine, potentially maybe not this season, but maybe in a future season, that they will be liaising between each other in how is the best way to protect the city, and like eventually how we saw Captain Lance and the Green Arrow do on the Arrow show. So yeah, I'm expecting that to happen at some point. The fight scenes in episode 1 were decent enough for me. I mean, I have to give credit to Ruby Rose for what she did here, and this isn't really her first experience with filming hand-to-hand combat stuff, so of course I'm looking forward to see what more she can offer with episodes to come. I think the show has a lot of potential with the cool bat tech we saw in the Batcave as well, and the moment when Batwoman arrived after taking Batman's suit and kind of wearing it reminded me of that scene when Bruce dove after Rachel in the Christopher Nolan films, and I felt like the cape at this point too kind of pluffed out like it did in those movies as well, to break the fall. Although I do feel like it needed a little bit of convincing in terms of how Kane can hold her own. I mean, yes, I know she's trained and survivalist and combat experts and all of that stuff, but you know, she's already been knocked out, she was in a headlock from Alice, and you know, this is a person who's meant to be the new Batman, if you will, like standing up against and maintaining the lockup of all of the Batman's rogues gallery. It's just a very, very hard sell at the moment. I mean, at least to me. Of course, I'm not discounting that all of this is more or less Kane's newbie Batman Year 1 mode, because this is literally the first time she's suited up, so I'm not disregarding all of that, and I'm sure she will improve over the course of the series and hopefully become more of a convincing protector to Gotham City to fill the Batman's shoes. But as I said, for now, I can't really remotely imagine her going up against more of an intimidating Batman villain, or somebody who might be a lot more, I don't know, threatening in a villain of the week styled thing. But I'm very much so anticipating to see if the show will do a villain of the week that involves a seemingly outmatched Batwoman and how they would approach that. Now, they did very much so keep the lines of how this suit will be literal perfection once it fits a woman, while removing the line entirely of how Kane won't let a man, aka Batman, take credit for a woman's work. Now, the thing is, say what you will about all of this, but it's not like this episode was like a walking monologue of cringy ass quotes like that. And you know, this is the thing as well, I'm hopeful that this show will not contain lines like that, like a lot of people were thinking this show would embrace left, right, and center. Now, with the end of the episode, everyone thinks that Batman is back, so Kane will be having to deal with that until she gets a new suit, and judging for the promo for the next episode, it looks as though she'll get it. This isn't her actual suit, for those wondering. The one she is wearing in episode 1 is basically like a resized Batman suit, I guess you could say, so she will be getting the one that she wore in the Elseworlds crossover with the red wig, just in case any of you are thinking that this one kind of looked odd on her. But I'm glad that they revealed to Kane that her sister is Alice, or like they kind of hinted at that, just because I felt as though if they would have like saved it for like a mid-season twist, it just wouldn't have been like a satisfying one, because I felt like most people already knew where they were going with this. So, you know, embracing that from the get-go will already add that interesting element to both Alice and Batwoman's, you know, relationship in the show going forwards, and the fact that she is a villain, you know, she knows this is her sister, and how they're gonna just, you know, tackle that going forward. And that, ladies and gentlemen, are my thoughts on Batwoman episode 1. So I'll just reiterate what I said at the beginning. I wasn't mega impressed, but I also didn't think it was nearly as bad as what people were making out to be. I thought that was an extremely big over-exaggeration. Even if you go back to when I covered the trailer of this show, I was one of the people that, despite the cringy lines or whatever, I was still saying, hey, this show looks good. Hey, it's going to be good to have a new vigilante show that fills the void of Arrow, you know, going off air after its, like, final season this year. You know, it's going to be good to have something, and not only that, it's kind of like a bonus for me, because I love the Bat Family-esque stuff that it's set in Gotham, and it's tackling that whole, you know, world that I love. But, you know, having seen it, it just, you know, was a pilot. I think that's the way to put it. It was a pilot episode. You know, people were saying it was very well put together. In my opinion, I don't want to say that it was, but I also don't want to say that it wasn't. It was just like, it was what it was. And, you know, it's all subjective at the end of the day. I'm sure there's going to be people watching this who are thinking that it was absolutely brilliant. There's going to be people watching this that thought it was absolutely terrible. But it might just be, I think, I could be reading this wrong, but I think a lot of people would just be kind of thinking, hey, I hate giving ratings, I don't usually do it, but I feel like this will be a good way to articulate how I'm feeling here. You know, 5 out of 10 is average, right? You know, completely down the middle. 10 is flawless. 0 is, you know, downtroddenly unbearable to watch. I would say that this was a 6, maybe over a 6. That means it's above average, guys, so I'm not hating on this show, don't worry. But I'm not saying it was, is it really like a near a 8? Is it near a 9? No. But is it near a 5 or below that? No, because that would mean that this episode, when I was watching it, was like well below average, and I definitely don't think that. So it goes above 5. I would land it on a 6, a 6.2, a 6.3. 6.5 feels a bit, maybe a 6.5, but I think that kind of sums it up. But if you guys want me to keep reviewing this, let me know down in the comments below if you want to see me do a breakdown like I do on my other shows, like Flash, Arrow, Titans, Doom Patrol, and all of that stuff. Do you want to see me do a full-on breakdown and review week to week of Batwoman? Because if you guys want to see it, I think I'm going to do episode 2 regardless, but it's just, you know, give an updated thoughts on the impression of the show, because I think that's fair after seeing the pilot episode. Like this video if you did enjoy it, subscribe if you are brand new and you want to stay up to date with all things like this. But thank you so much for watching, guys. Check out my last couple of videos here. Hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, Bat Family, I guess, in the next video. Goodbye.